Welcome back to ADNAC Accent Coaching. My name's Allison. Just going to read more from this book. You've seen me read from it before. And I'm going to try and get through this whole short story. It's about 7 pages. So it's called Briar Patch by Lane Fox. The path today is much smoother than I remember. Not nearly as many roots reaching up to deflect my tires. I don't have to fight the handlebars the way I did when we arrived. How long ago? More than 7 seasons. Time feels strange when there are dual suns. Still, it's tempting to try to impose schedules. Find ways to link days to the world that didn't want us. Pretend the ones who left aren't exiled. Pretend there was ever a choice. As if everything we are is a choice. I breathe deeply and fill my lungs with autumn air, spicy and crisp. The fallen leaves crunch and crackle, and I imagine their smell, like cinnamon and coriander rising in my wake. My whistling blends with the almost familiar birdsong as they harmonize, friendly and unafraid. I exult in the effort of pushing petals, pulling the cart filled with dense sprouted breads and bagels, hard cheeses encased in wax, oils and herbs, and spreads blended with love. The birds follow behind to pick up the crumbs, and I feel like Hansel or Gretel, wandering the woods, unable to find my way back to where we were. The birds and I weave a song of thanks for everything we have, while I struggle to keep it from becoming a song of sadness for what's been lost. I try to push aside the memory of my infant, pulled from my arms as I boarded the ship. It doesn't work, and the senator's name coils behind my teeth. She was there as a re-election stunt, showing how tough she was, tempered with compassion, reminding us that if we atoned, if we chose to come back to the fold, her country would be more than willing to forgive us our trespasses. They kept their heads down as we passed. I walked behind Tristan and Jordan to keep an eye on them, to make sure no one got lost. Would it have changed things if I'd been first? If I'd wrapped our youngest tighter against me? If I hadn't stood tall and proud? If I'd let it seem like they'd broken me? She stopped us. Liked the look of the baby's curls, I guess. I watched the newsreels on the ship after my other children were tucked into their bunks, silent tears streaming down my face as the senator basked in the adoration of a television audience. They cheered when she claimed her prayers for a family had been answered, that she had been called to rescue the child. She humbly prayed for the strength to raise her God-given daughter in a home uncorrupted by the evils of unrepentant sinners. They would be walking now, talking. If they're anything like my other children, they'll be running headfirst through the world, knowing that it will break before they do. I send my daily dreams for them toward the sky. Be full of care and wary of those who tell you to be careful. Please, dear child, trust yourself, trust your heart. Trust that you are more than they let you be. I wipe my eyes, swallow my sorrow, and keep pedaling. The path turns downhill and opens into fields. I coast, head wrapped up in thoughts of who we are when there's no pattern to follow. The wonder of who I am when I'm not busy piecing myself together from scraps of what I'm supposed to be. When I can take the time to pick and choose the parts that fit the person I want to become. I'm not quite sure who that is yet, but I'm getting closer to feeling comfortable in my skin. Every decision, every deep breath I take as I walk through the world as a parent, partner, baker, maker, singer, human, me. Everything is a test. It's just that now it's an essay instead of a poorly phrased multiple choice. I shift gears. The way is smooth, and I can safely speed along the stubs of my newly harvested grains and fences of tangled, thorny vines. I slow down as I enter town, merging with the other merchants and townspeople. I lift my hand to wave to teachers and students in the park, tending the school garden. The winter squash, swollen and strange. The children adapted so quickly to the unknown, most of them eager to eat real food after the months of ship's rations. It helps that this world seems designed for us to enjoy. For dinner, they begged for the bulbous burgundy roots that grow close to the surface and smell like coconut curry when you cut them. There are broccoli-like flowers that grow in tiny Christmas tree shapes and have pollen that tastes almost like ranch dressing. They fight over the spiked pods that look like milkweed and melt like cotton candy when you crack them on your tongue. Really, we haven't had to worry much about the food situation here. The dominant life form is mainly aquatic, and they generously gifted this continent to us. They left us guides to their favorite plants, some starter homes, and their art. At least I think it's art. We haven't been able to figure out if there's any purpose to many of the structures other than to look pretty and catch the light. The homes had to be modified a bit since they were built by creatures without bones. It was a little awkward until we cut larger doors, but the thought was nice. I pull up to my usual stall, nodding to the candle maker to my right and the leather worker to my left. Most people here do most things. That's the nature of new colonies. Even so, there are always those who find their hands are more adept at weaving or growing or carving than their neighbors, and the market is the place to find and trade for the results of extraordinary skills. I unhook my cart and pull my bike to the hitching post. No locks. A person would sooner steal your left arm than your bicycle. Since it was easier to transport a few horses for breeding stock, plus enough bicycles and parts for each colonist, we depend on our fat, tired friends for all our transportation needs. Realistically, we probably won't see horse carts or plows for another generation or so. You ask me, we do just fine with our wheels. Then again, I'm not out there plowing fields. I set the crusty loaves on the table, the flavored oils and spices and spreads nearby. I put the wheels of cheese in the center. Those will be my first to sell. My partner's a dairy wizard, and I fell in love with their cheddar months before I worked up the courage to talk to them about anything other than food. The kids ask me to tell the story, mostly so they can laugh at my awkwardness, I think. But at this point, they tend to interrupt and tell most of it themselves. They never get it quite right, so this is my version. Each week, I'd stop by their stall and linger over my choices, my heart skipping each time their hand would brush mine. I'd bring over breads to test how they worked together. I probably bought more cheese than any reasonable family could eat. My oldest kept pushing me to do something, say something. They reminded me that fear-fueled inaction is also a choice. And asked if it was one I was making consciously. It was frustrating to hear my lessons being parroted back so appropriately. Then they smirked and jokingly threatened that they and the younger one were also fully capable of making choices about their lives and would take matters into their own hands if I didn't make a move. To stall, I saved the wax from the rinds and shaped it into roses. I used some of our fence vines as stems and twisted them into a lopsided bouquet. It was always almost finished and not quite ready, until one day it was. Nervously, I left it peeking out of their panniers after I'd packed up early on a market day. I rushed took my bike to my cart, my hand fumbling with the catch. I pedaled around the corner, thinking I'd wait to see their reaction, but they didn't even notice. They swung their leg up and over and pedaled in the opposite direction. I didn't buy any cheese the next week, or the week after. The third week, I swallowed my pride and talked to them again. I'm sure I blushed from toes to ears, but I did it, and I didn't die. When I got home, I unpacked my bags and found a small selection of sharp cheeses, the kind that made my mouth water, and one of my roses. Long story shorter, less than a month later, they'd moved in and our booths had merged. I suppose it's the colonial version of a moving in on the second date. I was waiting for that. It's strange to be here without them, but they're back at home, too pregnant to be comfortable riding into town for a day of bartering. Plus, they get anxious with all the friendly hands reaching toward their swollen belly. Pregnancy is strange here. Pragmatic. There are those of us who happen to have the equipment to carry babies, and those who don't. Falling in love with people doesn't always guarantee that you'll be able to blend your genetics. To be fair, there were a lot of cis people back on Earth who struggled with infertility. So I suppose that being binary and straight wasn't exactly a free pass either. Here, you put out a call to the community requesting a carrier or a sperm donor. Or you can do like some communal groups do and keep expanding your romantic partnership circle until it includes at least one baby-making pair. It's rare that someone isn't pregnant on purpose. There's always a few requests posted near the hitching post, and I'm tempted sometimes to volunteer to carry, but not anytime soon. I remember how much work babies can be, and I know we'll have our hands full for a while. That's definitely it. The work, and not the nights I wake up with my pillow wet, and my partner's sleepy hands on my shoulder, gently pulling me from dreams of Avery being pulled from me. I finish our display and set signs out for what we'll take in trade. Paper and paints for drawing, a few herbs and spices that we haven't been able to grow, paraffin for bike chain maintenance, and cloth for baby clothes. I sit back on the bench behind our mingled offerings and start warming a ball of wax between my fingers before pressing my love into each petal I craft. I've gotten better at it over the last year, faster, found better stems that don't droop when they're held. I suppose it might look like wasted energy. We live together now, and I could probably stop without them feeling the lack. It's not like the work will last. I know that the flowers will sit for a day, maybe two, and then be melted down, purified, and remade into cheese casings. But this is a choice I make every day. To pour my love into small things. To remind myself that loving is worthwhile. Always. Thanks for watching. That's the end.